Want to welcome everybody to Iowa Postgame with Coach Gary Close here from the Hawkeye of the Storm on a lovely Sunday afternoon, at least here in central Iowa, Gary. It's sunny, and I'm assuming I see the sunshine through some reflections behind you.
Yeah.
So beautiful day for Super Bowl Sunday, but we got basketball to talk about before the big game, which I know you're very invested in. So let's get right down to it. The Hawkeyes defeating Minnesota on the road, 68-56. I wouldn't necessarily say a routine win because this game was close until late, and it's one of those games that you hope you can run away with early because you don't want to let a team like that hang around. But in the end, Iowa was able to get it done, 68-56. What were your overall takeaways?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good one. I was impressed with Minnesota. You know, they've lost some players, and I thought they played very hard and aggressive and had a lot of energy and did some good things. So they could have beaten some teams today with their energy and how they played. So for Iowa to, overcome some things, especially in the first half, and get a road win is really good, especially with looking ahead with their schedule. They got some tough games coming up. So this was an important, and they did enough to get a solid victory.
Hawkeyes dominating the glass, 44-32 is the count I have. I don't yet have the official box score from the university, but pretty convincing fashion on the glass, Gary. Of course, you're missing Dawson Garcia. I'm talking about Minnesota star Dawson Garcia transferred in. Of course, Iowa struggled to shoot from the field in that first half, and I texted you during the first half. It seemed like, first of all, full disclosure, as I told you, I had some internet issues, so I actually missed the first part of the game. But it did seem that Iowa had some issues finishing around the rim, and that was reflected with their field goal percentage. Didn't shoot the ball very well in the first half. If they had, this game might have been over at halftime.
Possibly, yeah. No, they had a little trouble finishing around the basket. I think I had them for double digits in terms of layups missed, and it's not like it's an uncontested wide open layup, so it's it's a little deceiving, but. Minnesota did a good job of not fouling and, being pretty physical without fouling and making those shots a little more difficult than they might have been. But still, I'm sure they'd like to have some of those back because it had a lot to do with, with their not having a bigger lead at halftime.
Does that concern you at all, the missed layups? I mean, moving forward?
No, because it's not something that's happened a lot. It'll, it's kind of like free throws. It kind of gets contagious. There's something to be said for being a good finisher. It's not as easy as it would appear to be in terms of having a good wide base and gathering yourself. I thought a couple of times they just didn't go up with a lot of strength, and a lot of times you won't get calls when you do that. You gotta make a good strong move and so that's something you got to continue to work on, but it looks easier than it actually is, for sure.
Jamison Battle has struggled this year, and I don't want to make this a Minnesota show early, but he just seems better than he's playing right now. Is that maybe has he been kind of sideways because of Dawson Garcia coming in and kind of taking away some shots, or what have you seen from him this year? Because I thought he was pretty good last year and kind of felt like he might emerge in being a first-team All-Big Ten player this year, but that hasn't happened. Yeah,
and it just goes to show you how important it is to have good players around you. It's hard. This is a hard league to do it on your own. He certainly has had his moments. He's a good player and a dangerous player, and with some talent. So I agree that might have something to do with it. And just, new team, new coach in a lot of respects, a young coach, young staff that it may take a little time for them to get that going.
What do you think of the Iowa defense today, Gary?
I thought it was good at times. Yeah, I thought I thought they did a great job of rebounding, which is part of defense. I think they won the rebounding battle decisively. Had a few missteps in the first half, especially with some shots around the basket. But I think for the most part they played pretty solid, and they did the things they had to do to win on the road. They took care of the ball, they rebounded well, played solid defense, didn't foul a lot, and that's how you get road wins.
I thought Connor McCaffery might have been the difference in that second half. I know he only scored 3 points, but 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. Iowa seemed to be having problems. Maybe you won't agree with this, but they seemed to me that they were having some issues with 50-50 balls, and they were active with their hands out of the press, but there were a couple possessions where, they just couldn't corral the ball. And I thought Connor in that second half kind of changed that a little bit. Just talk about what you saw from Connor.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's it's what we've been talking about him all year long. That a lot of times his worth to the team doesn't exactly show up in the stats. Now today it did with the rebounds and the assists. He didn't have to score a lot to be very, very effective. He's 25 years old. He's going on Jess Settles' record, so he's got a lot of experience and he's played a lot of games. And that is, any coach will tell you, that's a nice thing to have as you play in this league, especially on the road.
You think if Fran accepted him, you think Jess would go back and play more?
I think he probably would. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. He could play well into his 30s, 40s.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to our first caller. Jason's on the line. Jason, welcome to the show. Jason, are you with us?
Where's Jason?
Jason, we hear you. Okay. Don't know what that was.
He's getting ready for the Super Bowl.
I don't know what that was, but let's move on to Doug.
There's Doug.
Yep, you see me.
What was that last caller, Doug? What was that?
I don't know. Someone that didn't know they were on the air yet, I guess. I don't know.
All right. What did you think today, Doug?
Well, there's a lot of comments and things I wanted to say. I'm just glad that we got the win. That's I didn't want another quad 4 Eastern Illinois type thing, but the 50-50 balls, like you mentioned, you guys already commented a lot of the things. One of the things I'd say, it's not good to have 17 offensive rebounds. As many people think that's a good stat to have. It kind of reminded me of Reggie Evans when he played here. Everyone said he was like the greatest offensive rebounder ever, but half of his offensive rebounds were his own misses. So, that's I would much rather have a shooting over 50% than 17 offensive rebounds. But, I just thought it was a weird game, actually. It just didn't have good flow. You were mentioning that I didn't think Minnesota has good chemistry. They seem like they had – that's like with the transfer, and you're mentioning battles and the new guys coming in. I just don't think they were they've meshed. They're not a unit yet. And I don't know if that's coaching. I don't know if that's, Johnson has yet to bring in all the pieces, but there was pieces there. That's not a horrible team, like you said, Corey. There's pieces there. It just isn't a complete team, and that might be because they only have 8 players. But
well, I base my show on being authentic and speaking my mind. I have to say this. I don't agree. I don't agree. I think Gary's just in a happy mood because his Eagles are playing in the Super Bowl today. Frankly, I thought Minnesota was terrible. I didn't think Minnesota looked good at all, Doug. Mm-hmm. They turned the ball over. They had 13 turnovers in the game. They can't shoot free throws. They were 33% from the free throw line. They got killed on the glass. They got killed on the offensive glass, 17-2. They could not. They looked incredibly sloppy out of that, trying to beat the press, which I know is difficult to do. But Gary, I got to disagree a little bit with you. I was not as impressed with Minnesota as maybe you were.
Yeah, there's certainly things that you pointed out. They're not a great team. They won one game, so that's the bottom line. But that was not an easy win.
No.
Part of that was self-inflicted. And when you get into this part of the season, you've got one win. You'll see a lot of teams just roll over and die. And okay, I want to get home and watch the game. I don't want to. I'm down. Plus, they were down early, big, and they could have easily camped in and been done with it. And they hung in there, and made a decent game out of it despite their shortcomings. And so, I think that's something they can build on. They're obviously got a long way to go, but just look what Nebraska's done with those guys injured, and they could have easily tanked as well. And now they've gotten 2 great home wins, and that's coaching. So I give Fred credit, and I think Ben's got a chance to be a good coach. It's gonna take him a little time, especially in this league.
Do you think Fred? Not to change the subject, and then I'll go back to you, Doug. Do you think Fred makes it after this year, Gary?
I think he's got a chance. Yeah, I think the team has showed a lot of promise, a lot of heart. I know it's not enough wins, but considering all that they've gone through, I wouldn't be surprised if he's given another year. But I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't either. That's just kind of the way college basketball is now.
Doug?
Yeah, 2 more questions for Coach. One is to deal with Iowa. Do you think we're only going to play 7 guys? I mean, is Dix and Bowen not in the rotation anymore? Or, but Corey, you can answer that too. I mean, because everyone's saying how Minnesota had no depth. Well, we played 5 guys for pretty much that whole second half. Is that what you think will happen, or do you think there'll be something else?
I think there's a chance of that. Yeah, I think he's going to go with the guys he feels the most comfortable with, and I think Dix would be the next guy in if they need some players. But I think it's looked like he's done a little subbing in the first half, and then he goes with his guys in the second, and that's what he feels most comfortable with. So that would not surprise me. No.
Real quick, against Purdue the other night, Dix. I don't know if you noticed this, Gary, but it appeared like he took maybe a quick shot early in the shot clock.
Yeah, I did see
Fran
that.
yanked him right away. And I just wonder, I'm not saying Fran didn't play him all day today because of one shot, but that just, I don't know that he returned at. Maybe he did, but did he return after that, Gary? Do you remember?
I don't think he played in the second half.
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
I noticed that.
And it was a quick shot. It wasn't a good shot either. Yeah,
it wasn't. But normally Fran is a little bit forgiving with quick shots for his shooters. That surprised me that he yanked him when he did.
A little bit. You just never know the timing of things. If maybe in the huddle he said, "Hey, look, we got to get a good shot," and then the kid comes out and shoots a bad one right away, and you yank him. So sometimes we don't know the whole story, but I think he'll get his chances down the stretch. But Bowen hasn't played much of late, and unless he really starts playing well in practice, I'm guessing that, or somebody gets hurt, I'm guessing his time might be limited.
And then I just wanted to, Coach, or Corey, both of you, NCAA tournament, Big Ten. Do you think Wisconsin makes the NCAA tournament, Coach?
Not right now.
Okay. How many Big Ten schools make the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think it depends upon how Wisconsin and Penn State finish up, and some of those other ones. The league is such that you could lose 4 games in a row and be in trouble. But I think a lot of those teams up there are pretty much in, unless they just totally collapse. But I think the total number is going to be depend a lot on what Penn State and Wisconsin do down the stretch, because Penn State's sinking fast and Wisconsin's following. Although Wisconsin's got a chance. They've got a lot of games at home against good teams that if they could get on a roll, they could move up real quick.
And Corey, you don't have that bracket guy on again?
Tim Kruger?
Or one of them. Yeah, Tim.
Yeah, we'll probably do that. I thought about that. Either Tim or maybe we'll reach out to Mike DeCourcy or someone and see if we can get a bracket show. Yeah. By the way, Michigan, they still got a lot of work to do as well, Gary. I think right now they're out, right? I mean, I keep thinking that Ohio State, I kept thinking throughout January, Ohio State's going to play out of this. They're done.
Yeah,
they're done.
Are done.
Yep.
And who'd they lose to today? They lost somebody today?
They lost to Michigan State today.
Yeah, they got killed. I mean, absolutely killed.
That's what I'm talking about. That could have easily been Minnesota. They get down and then they just say, we're done. And apparently that's what happened with Ohio State. I didn't see hardly any of that because of Iowa playing. But this time of the year, it's interesting to watch teams that are on the short end if they can keep playing.
Yeah, I the last thing I'm going to say is, we got one of these 3 home games. Because we can very easily, people always talk about the Fran fade. We're in good position at 8-6, but you can't lose all those home games. And I think we can get Northwestern, Wisconsin on the road. I'm not guaranteeing it. I just think we can.
We need to beat I'll tell you this. We need to beat Wisconsin on the road because dropping that one at home, that's a quad 3 loss now, Gary. Incredibly so. That's a quad 3 loss to lose at them in overtime. And that was a better.
Well, they wouldn't have lost that game if Murray had played, probably. But
thank you guys.
That's here nor there.
Thank you, Doug. And Ulis was out that game as well, and he's obviously been a revelation as the season has went on. So just odd. I what's going on with Greg Gard's team? Is it a lack of talent, or what would you attribute it to?
Well, I think they're a fine line between being good and being bad. Their top players have to play well. They just don't have a lot of depth coming off the bench. So Crowell and Wall and Hepburn and Sejan have got to play well. If 2 or 3 of those guys don't, which is what happened yesterday, both Crowell and Wall struggled. Then they just don't have enough firepower to win games. They're in games. That's why they're dangerous. They're not getting blown out. So you got to be careful, because if they stay close and if they make some plays, they win. They didn't yesterday. But their top players have been a little up and down, and they've gotten very little off the bench.
I want to give a shout out to Iowa Smokehouse here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. They are supporting the show through sponsoring the postgame action here during the month of February. And of course, if you need a good game day snack or just a better quality snack in general, check out iowasmokehouse.com. You can find them in your local grocer, but how about this deal? Go to iowasmokehouse.com, use that code Hawkeye for 15% off. And if you purchase $50 or more through the website, you'll get free shipping. So no reason to go out in the cold this time of year. Go to iowasmokehouse.com and use that code Hawkeye, singular, for 15% off. We appreciate Iowa Smokehouse. Tasting is believing. And of course, Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm. They've been in business since 1999, and State Farm, huge company, as everyone knows, they have been in business now for 100 years. Incredible. The biggest auto insurance company in the country. And Brad's small team down in Des Moines will give you a chance to save some money on great rates, great coverage. 515-256-6480. That's 515-256-6480. Or get a quote online. Request a quote online at www.bradvanmeter.com. Gary, talk a little bit about Devin Harris. He was on the call today. I don't know that we've gotten to Devin Harris. Did you coach him for a year?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, really, just a wonderful kid, great player. I mean, he had an unbelievable year for us, and a long career in the NBA. Actually, I texted him because I was hoping he was going to run into Sam while he was there. Unfortunately, he didn't. But I didn't know he was getting into the announcing profession, but I thought he did a good job. It sounded like it might have been his first game. I don't know if it was or not, but he was an interesting player. He was not heavily recruited, kind of small and skinny. And in fact, a funny story, Kirk Sproul, the former coach at Iowa, was the first one to offer him when he was at Central Florida. And Devin almost went there. And then Wisconsin kind of came in late and got him. And he was the Big Ten Player of the Year this last year. He's really, really, really good player.
I loved him at Dallas. I'm a Mavs fan, and boy, in his early days in Dallas, he was fantastic with Dirk and Josh Howard and those guys. That was Jason Terry. Those were fun teams to watch.
Good teams.
It was when I was I was a young kid at the time, and it was crushing when I can't remember if they dealt him or if he just signed during free agency, but of course he ended up going to New Jersey. Came back to Dallas later in his career. But he was fun to watch. Yeah,
good player.
All right, let's go to Tony, who's been on hold. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, Corey?
Hey, Tony.
I'm glad you promoted Iowa Smokehouse. stop
Ah,
before the game.
yes. And you're
Iowa
further from what I
Smokehouse.
would. That's good stuff, isn't it? I mean, it is just
Yeah.
it is good stuff.
I'm not too far from Iowa. Sioux Falls is maybe 15 minutes from the border, so I'm not too bad.
Yeah, we'll consider you an Iowan.
I consider myself an Iowan, so I'm glad you do that. I agree with Coach. I don't think this game was as close. I guess he was comfortable with it. You mentioned that he was very comfortable, maybe because the Super Bowl. I was just comfortable just because I think that having Connor and Kris back, we've had them back, but I think this could have easily been the Eastern Illinois game without those two, because you could see Minnesota was gaining confidence and hitting shots. And, what was it? They popped up during the game that all the stats Connor had without scoring points, like they did his rebounds, his assists, his steals, his turnovers, and all those little things just come into play, I think, in a game like this where you just have to grind it out where your shots aren't falling. And to piggyback on that, the reason I wanted to hop on right away was you mentioned the Wisconsin stuff, yesterday. I watched that game and I could just see, I don't know how much of it. Did you watch any of that, Coach Close, or not? The game
I did. I watched some of it. Yep.
At the end of regulation, I just saw Greg Gard in the huddle just put his head down. He looked like he had no that was a horrible shot by Hepburn. At the end, he just dribbled and chucked up a three. And I think that's where a team could be lost with a coach,
Yeah, we'll have to see it. I saw the same reaction in the huddle. It was interesting to watch. Didn't give you a lot of confidence going back out there. But, when you blow a 17-point lead, and a half against a team that's on the bottom of the league, it's and you have chances to win it. I mean, Nebraska did not score for the last 3.5 minutes of regulation, and they still couldn't finish them off to win the game. Now, Nebraska, they didn't shoot free throws well and things like that, but that was not a good loss for Wisconsin. That puts their back to the wall for sure.
And they've got some of those at home, but it's still a tough schedule. The Big Ten is just so tough. Every team, even Minnesota. I mean, you want to say outside of Minnesota, but look at how Minnesota played today. They haven't given up. But I did watch some of that Michigan State Ohio State game, and I think Ohio State's mailed it in. I really think that they thought I just think they really thought that Iowa game could have been that turning point, because I remember when we played them, that was at home. Then they had 2 tough games on the road, and maybe they thought that performance could have catapulted them. And we're their only win in the last 10 or 11 games, I think. For Ohio State.
They've really sunk.
I sure hope that Iowa doesn't think that Ohio State's mailed it in, because they get them on Thursday in a late night game when there's probably going to be less fans than there should be, and
we'll drill.
Okay.
And speaking of, you said fans, Corey, and did you get that tweet I tagged you in with what Minnesota was giving away to the student section? They were giving away Fire TVs and Apple Air, I tagged you. It was I think it was yesterday that they put it out. They said anyone who shows up to the Iowa-Minnesota game gets they get put into a drawing. Put into a drawing for Apple AirPods, a Fire TV, whole bunch of stuff. They had a picture of all the stuff they were giving away. I wish Iowa would do something like that.
Well,
to get the
I don't think
I know your feelings on it. So
I don't think Iowa's quite as desperate as Minnesota is, but I will say this. I've been an advocate for Iowa to incentivize students to be at these games, and part of that is moving the students. But in the meantime, there are other ways you can incentivize students to be at games, and I think giving away tickets regularly is a good idea. I mean, frankly, again, if they don't show up Thursday, I know we're going to hear it's late, it's whatever. Gary, you think we'll have a full house on Thursday night?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
But
late game on a bad team, I don't think so.
The Michigan State game sold out, though.
Yeah, Michigan State game is. So I'll be at the game Thursday, for the record. So I will be there. Late game, and I don't know. All I know is that's a dangerous team. They got NBA. They got at least one NBA player, really good NBA prospect. So Iowa got killed by them the last time. So the bottom line is there's no taking Ohio State for granted on Saturday. By the way, Tony,
You
I
sound like a coach, Cole.
Do I sound like a coach? I sound like more of a coach than you on this, Gary.
Yeah.
You're the one saying, we're going to kill him. We're going to kill him.
We're going to murder him.
All right. Tony, I failed to remind people this with Doug's call, but I appreciate you flashing your meat stick on the screen because you remember what call-in line you called into, right?
Yes.
What?
The Iowa Smokehouse call-in line.
You got it. The Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. And I'm just curious, what flavor are the meat sticks that you had in your hand?
I have a bacon. I don't know if it shows up. Bacon meat stick.
Okay.
And I have just the original. I'm not much of a spice guy, so
okay, because that's jalapeno.
Yeah, I'm not a. That would be. I need too many Tums just to eat that. So.
Oh man, that bacon meat stick is dangerous in a good way.
I had two off-topic questions for Coach, and then I'll sign off. What's going to be your favorite snack or go-to appetizer today for the Super Bowl? And I need a score prediction.
Well, we're having a potluck with a bunch of friends, and a friend of mine is bringing his world-famous taco dip. I don't eat a whole lot when I'm watching football, other than I don't like eating a lot. I drink a little more, but not eat a lot. But his dip is really good, so that'll probably be that. And I think the Eagles are going to win 34-24.
What are your real quickly, Gary? What's your preferred drink of choice during football games?
Oh man, I don't know if I should give that out.
Oh. Are you a whiskey guy? Are you let me guess. I'm guessing you're a Scotch guy.
I do like a little Scotch late in the evening.
Okay.
But no, I'll probably have a few beers and then see where it goes.
Okay, I didn't expect Gary to say beer, but
I've gotten into these kind of exotic beers that are more like lagers. They're good. They're really good. It's almost like a drink, actually. It's so much so that I can't even drink a normal beer now. They feel watered down and
because they are.
Good, so,
yeah,
exactly. So
now
I'll probably do that.
Corey, with Thursday, are you going to be broadcasting sitting on the Hawkeye logo at Carver Hawkeye to one up Coach Cole? Because he's been in your press row. Can we get you like
press row like me?
Yeah.
Is Jess doing the game on Thursday, Gary?
I don't know.
You're not going to be at the game on Thursday, are you?
No, actually, I will be in South Carolina.
Weren't you just there?
No, Thanksgiving.
Oh well, that's a few months ago. So
yeah, no, I'm heading down for about 9 days. You
golfing?
Yep.
Thanks. I'll sign off so you guys can
appreciate.
All right, have a good Super Bowl. Go Birds.
Thank you. Go Birds.
Thank you, Tony. So you are golfing down there, or you're not?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good for you.
Every day.
All right. Well, we appreciate Doug and Tony for calling into our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line, and of course the Hawkeyes with our 68-56 win today. And I did want to, before we get to our next caller, Ryan's on hold, I did want to bring out, I did get the official box score finally from Iowa here. In that first half, I have the exact field goal percentage. Iowa shooting 32.5% from the field in the first half, 1 of 7 from 3. This is the second straight game now, Gary, where they have shot horrendously bad in the first half. And I know different circumstances. Purdue, it wasn't just a bunch of bunnies that were missed. And I know Zach Edey affects a lot of things. I go back to beginning of January, and it was a long time ago. They had a horrendous first half against Penn State, bad first half against Nebraska earlier in Big Ten play. Are you at all concerned with, this becoming a kind of a trend now with Iowa starting out of the gate slow offensively?
Maybe a little bit, but they've shown in the past they can kind of right the ship. So I think it's going to happen Thursday night. I think they'll light them up.
Okay, simple answer.
They're due.
Okay. All right. Let's.
They had a few rim out. They did not do a good job of finishing. That really hurt their percentage. They, that's that's probably as much concern as anything. I think the threes will, I think they'll come back. A lot of teams go through things like that, but they've got to do a better job of finishing because those are important shots, especially in close games.
Our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line is 515-635-1601, or you can join by means of the StreamYard link in the description below. Let's go to Ryan, who's been on hold for the length of the show. Ryan.
Gentlemen.
What's happening, Ryan?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
Great.
Oh, by the way, I didn't even, before we get to Ryan, let me just ask you, Gary, what did you think of the officiating Did you think the officiating was okay today, or?
My man DJ did a great job. No, I thought it was terrific officiating. Was DJ there? No, that was yesterday.
No, DJ was not there yesterday.
Yeah, he was at the Wisconsin game yesterday.
It was Larry.
Yeah. I thought little Larry was on his best behavior. My only regret is, as you know, I got the opportunity to say hello and talk for a couple of minutes with Coach Close before the Illinois game. Had I known Courtney Green was doing that game, I would have given Gary Close $20 to walk down on the floor and do a selfie with Courtney Green.
Well, I did think, in all reality, Gary, I did think the officiating was a little bit suspect in the second half today. I just thought it was there just seemed to be a lot of mugging going on. And
Corey, you seem to complain about officiating a lot.
Gary,
and I think they did actually pretty solid today.
But Gary, you nodded your head when I said there was a lot of mugging in the second half that wasn't called. Don't you think there was a little bit?
Maybe a little, but
a little bit more contact than necessary. But
yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian. What you got? You got a question for Coach?
Well, first of all, I want to remind Coach Close that there is the Philadelphia Eagles against the Kansas City Chiefs at 5:30. I know this show could probably go to 7 o'clock. So if you're interested, you may want to cut it off. Kidding. I have Kansas City winning 6-4.
Well, I thought you were my friend.
Well, I had the Eagles in my fantasy football league, and they won it. And full disclosure, you have a texter named Bob Hoffman. His son is my best friend. And right after the Illinois game, his son and daughter-in-law and my wife went out to dinner. And we were talking about the Super Bowl, and I thought I would maybe even troll Coach Close a little bit because 6-4 was the 2004 score of the Penn State-Iowa game. No, honestly, I think it's going to be like 31-31 in overtime, and one of them is going to win by a field goal. Quite honestly.
Could happen. It could be a great game.
Both teams are fantastic, and my mom and dad are diehard Chiefs fans. I bought my mom, who's 79 years old, a Patrick Mahomes jersey for Christmas. She wears it all the time. So I'm kind of rooting for the Chiefs, but I'll tell you what, you guys have a fantastic team. Your defense did a big part in winning me a nice chunk of tax-free change. And so, you know what? Let's just do it. I'm very happy for you, Coach Close, and we'll go from there. As far as the Iowa game goes, Minnesota's 16-7, an excellent team. They're now 12-2 in the Big Ten. We could have really blown them out. Oh, wait, I put losses ahead of wins. Anyway.
You got me a little confused there.
I play that way sometimes. I got to say, though, we could have been 85-65 or whatever it kind of was, because I really feel we struggle at point-blank bunnies.
Well, Iowa did today. I mean, I don't know that that's a trend, Ryan. I mean, you say we struggled today. You think that's
yeah, I do, and I think this is something I noticed for a while. other than Phillip, and for a while, Tony Perkins was really good at driving to the basket. Heck, even DeSante Bowen. I'm a fan of attacking the rim a lot. And even though you're not going to do that on every possession, attack the rim. And, they didn't have a real rim protector. Now, Corey, I felt like last time we talked, there was a little bit of a disconnect because you kind of, I thought I was criticizing our defensive approach with Edey. And I actually thought it was a great defensive approach. The problem is, as I said in that call, they're going to have to beat us on 37% shot, and they did.
I just can't imagine a disconnect between you and me.
I can't either.
Corey, you have a great dentist. You have darker hair than me, and Coach Close is a legend here. So I have no complaints, my man. I have no complaints. You guys are awesome. I thought today, though, we missed a lot of easy opportunities. And, of course, I realize it's not as easy as it looks either. But Coach Close said double figures of point-blank shots missed.
Easily.
I think it was probably about 18 points missed, close up. Kris struggled mightily in the first half. Looked like Kris Murray in the second. I'm a big fan of Phillip, but my final takeaway on this call before I let Coach Close know if the Eagles win, I'm going to be really happy.
Well, if you don't hurry up, it's going to be halftime.
My final is Connor. 3 points.
He's terrific. Yeah.
He was the difference between the game. And you can't just look up a box score without watching before you realize what a stud this guy really is for us. And my prediction
he's all about winning. He's all about winning. He'll do whatever it takes to win. He doesn't care if he scores 2 points or 20.
He's not making the NBA. He could care less.
No, it's all, and when you get to be, those guys are looking ahead and going, I don't have too many more games left in this uniform, and I want to win as many as I can, and I want to go as far as I can in these next 2 tournaments, and I'll do whatever I can to do it. And that's how he played today. I agree with a lot of the callers. I think he might have been the best player out there.
Connor was the best player on the floor today, even though Kris Murray was a major stat stuffer. Mm-hmm. He probably would have had 36 if he didn't miss so many close-up shots.
He could have had over 40. He had a night over 40. Yeah, easy.
And then Phillip was excellent. But just going to say, within 15 years, my prediction is Connor McCaffery, after he's an assistant somewhere and maybe a head coach at a directional school, he's going to be our head coach someday. I really believe that, and I'll be okay with that. Thank you, guys.
All right.
And best of luck to both of you. And Corey, I need to dye my hair darker. You look good, man. Thank you.
All right. See you, Ryan.
I'm just glad Iowa Smokehouse is sponsoring our call-in line because I wouldn't know how to respond to a call like that. I do appreciate Ryan calling in, and Lemansky giving you a shout out here. Fly, Hawkeyes and Eagles. It's a bird type of day, Gary.
It's all have all the birds win today.
All the birds win today. Thank you for the super chat, Lemansky, and do want to take a moment to thank Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm. If you need a quote on insurance, great insurance rates, give him and his team a call at 515-256-6480, 515-256-6480. It's a small team down there, but they give you individualized attention. Visit them in person at 4229 Fleur Drive in Des Moines. Visit them online. Again, www.bradvanmeter.com. We appreciate Brad and his team. All right. I do want to get to a couple of comments here in our chat that I missed, Gary. One being from Jared. He says, bad shooting night or just good defense from Minnesota?
I think it was more a bad shooting night. Although I will give credit to Minnesota, and a lot of times teams that lack discipline will foul in there. How many free throws did Iowa shoot today?
Iowa shot for the game. They shot 15 free throws, made 9.
Yeah. See, and that's part of the problem of not finishing is you don't draw as many as much as they got the ball inside today. They should have shot 20 plus free throws. So I think it was probably a little bit of both in the sense that Minnesota didn't foul, showed some discipline in there, but I know they like to have some of those shots back because some of those were point blank.
Eric says, exotic beers for an exotic person. I'm sorry. I had to read that one, Gary. So appreciate the comment from Eric. Circle Hork says, I got thrown out of Carver for sitting in the press section. Apparently, no, it's cool. I know Gary Close wasn't a good enough.
That got you thrown out.
Okay, so a couple other things. So first of all, we talked about Connor. Kris Murray had kind of an interesting night. We don't often see Kris take 27 shots, but he ends up with 28 points, struggled early, 14 boards. I think you could look at this a couple of different ways. You could say, well, he just shot a lot to get to 28. But I think maybe in past games, you'd see Kris, if he's struggling, kind of go away. Yep. But he was very assertive, Gary. Is that a step?
I agree completely. Yeah, especially in the first step, he had to be frustrated. He could have 40 easily tonight with all the point blank shots he missed. So he's got to work at that. But no, I agree with you. He just kept coming, and eventually, eventually his numbers are not that bad. Even the shooting percentage is not horrible, and obviously a big reason why they won. So no, I think that was a big time effort for him.
If you're Iowa and you're Kris Murray this late, and maybe even Kenyon Murray is a part of this, but if you're on that team this late in the season and you're trying to perfect your craft, this is probably his last year, probably his last month or so playing in a Hawkeye uniform. Mm-hmm. You go back and look at games against TCU, the game against Clemson, the game against Purdue, and when he has struggled and try to find common denominators. Do you go back that far this late in the process?
You might. I think he's going to be able to, tell pretty quickly what's happened. He's a little bit upright. He needs to get a little bit stronger, a little bit lower. So he's got a little more power going towards the basket. If I describe it like that, it's just a little, I don't want to call it weak, but it's just not, intense enough or firm enough. He's got to slow down, maybe throw in a shot fake, and then kick it out. If it's not a great shot, then kick it out and let somebody knock a three down. But he's a little quick, and the problem when you're quick is it tends to be not as a strong a move, and a lot of times officials just will not give you the benefit of the doubt.
Is that maybe the biggest difference as of right now between him and Keegan Murray? I mean, they're both very good outside shooters. They can get to the rim, but maybe Keegan's a bit stronger.
Yeah, a little bit better. Yeah. He's got to learn to score off of 2 feet a little bit more effectively because, obviously the level he's going to, and even now with the attention he's going to receive, he's just not going to have very many open layups where you can go off of 1 foot. So that's a different shot, and it's one you got to work on. We worked on it constantly. And then you throw in a counter if you can't get the guy to leave his feet, and that's how you get to the free throw. And how many free throws did he shoot?
For the game, Kris Murray had just 2 free throws. He's 1 of 2.
2 free throws with 27 shots. And how many threes did he shoot?
He shot 5.
So 22 shots, and he only draws 2 fouls. That's telling you that exactly what we're talking about. He's got to get better at that and drawing fouls and going to contact and slowing down a little bit and wider base, all the little things that can make you a better post player. And we need that because we need him getting to the free throw line. We need those baskets, and it'll be an interesting thing to watch going forward.
Is it fair to say that Filip Rebraca is very good at exactly what you're talking about?
He's really improved. Yeah, he's really improved. he's come a long way. You can tell he's worked at it.
Eric says, going back between here and the women's game, and that is hurting our viewership today, but that's okay because I'm assuming the women are winning. I don't have the score in front of me. We can go on forever about how amazing a player Caitlin Clark is. She just hit a 3 from Des Moines. Good road win by the men. Any road win is a good one. And Dom says, a win on the road is still hard anywhere in the Big Ten. People need to relax.
Well, ask Wisconsin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
they're struggling to win at home.
The win's a win. They don't go back and look at how you did it. They just count them up.
Ben says, anyone following the mess at New Mexico State, as frustrating as we get with the Hawkeyes, so glad we're not dealing with that. And the head coach was born in Dubuque, former Loras coach. Have you followed that at all? I've heard a little bit about that.
Just a little bit. I don't know the whole thing. It sounds like a mess. Yeah, it sounds awful.
One thing that shouldn't be overlooked today is 16 points for Iowa, 5. Iowa forward Philip Obracha, 8 rebounds. And correct that graphic here. 8 rebounds for Philip. If you were to, I know you're not there at practice every day, Gary, but if you were to pinpoint based on what you see, the leaders on this team, have the leaders emerged? Because to me, it's Connor McCaffery, Kris Murray, and Philip Obracha. Am I wrong with that assessment?
No, I think that's like you're always, that's just spot on.
Is that what you want, though? I mean, that's your 2 super seniors and then your future NBA players.
It's, those 3 players are winding their career down probably. And trust me, when it gets close, you feel it. And you just don't want to let any opportunity slip away because there's, it won't be long. You'll be taking that uniform off for the last time. And you don't have any regrets. And that's the way they're playing.
Iowa forcing, again, Minnesota turnovers. 14 Minnesota turnovers, and Iowa just turning the ball over 5 times. And although you could say, though, this is, on the road at a bad Minnesota team, they turned the ball over very few times against Purdue on Thursday as well, despite the loss. And that was a bugaboo. I mean, early on in the year, we kept talking about how clean Iowa was with the basketball. They play so fast. They're so efficient, yet they don't turn the ball over. Then there seemed to be this lull during the season. Part of that was Aaron Eulis playing more, and he kind of settled down eventually. But they don't seem to turn the ball over like they did a few weeks ago, Gary. We hope that continues. But have you seen a change in the last couple of games from especially Iowa's guards?
Yeah, we had talked about before. They were maybe over dribbling a little bit and getting themselves into areas of the court where the chance of turnovers go up. You drive baseline, that's a dangerous area to drive. If you don't have it free and clear, because it's a hard area to pass out if corners are tough, or if you drive into where there are a number of opponents, that makes it tough. So I think the turnover margin and the rebound margin is why they won the game today.
Oh, absolutely. I want to give everybody an update. So Eric says women are leading Rutgers 51-24. So dominating first half. We still got over 3 minutes to go in the half. So now we're going to get to see if Caitlin plays when they're up 40, Gary.
Yes, we will. That might even be in the third quarter.
By the way, Purdue leading Northwestern by 8 on the road in Evanston, 53-45, 5 minutes to go. The Wildcats standing tall, but boy, Purdue just so tough to beat. And, Northwestern's never a real big team. So obviously we're not watching that game. I'd be curious to see how Chris Collins is trying to defend Edie.
Yeah. I'm sure they're doubling, but that's, defensively, they've sounds like they played okay.
Do you suspect?
Which is a big reason why Northwestern has turned it around. Their defense from this year compared to last year is night and day.
Do you suspect most teams, once we get to the NCAA tournament, even teams outside of the conference, is that how they'll attack Zach Edey, is just double him every time?
Probably. And I'm guessing that'll be the case, unless it's something they just never have done before. You don't want to go try something that you've never worked on. So if it's not in your defensive arsenal, and then maybe not. But the tough thing with him is you can't front him because he's so tall. They just throw it right over the top. So you've got to play behind. And when you play behind, then you're really asking to get whipped, unless you can battle and get him a little farther away than point blank. So he's a handful.
Last call for the phone line today, folks. We've got to get going here in about 2 minutes. 515-635-1601, our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Our call-in line sponsored by Iowa Smokehouse. And speaking of Iowa Smokehouse, want to give them one final plug here. Of course, if you need great snacking, and who doesn't, especially this time of year, visit iowasmokehouse.com. We'll get rid of the banner here so you can see the entire graphic here. iowasmokehouse.com. Use that code Hawkeye at checkout for 15% off. Yes, tasting is believing. They've got great barbecue sauce, steak bites, ketchups, different barbecue sauces. It's incredible, the selection they have. And again, if you get a $50 or more order via the Iowa Smokehouse website, you'll get free shipping. Again, iowasmokehouse.com. Tasting is believing. Use that code Hawkeye for 15% off your order. All right, Gary, let's final minute here. We got about 60 seconds before your guests get there and you get yelled at. So let's real quickly talk a little bit about Ohio State. On Thursday, we brought them up earlier, but they're coming to town. They could be angry being blown out against Michigan State today, but they've been beat a lot lately. Who knows what team Iowa's going to get? How does Iowa avoid any drama on Thursday? Take care of business at home and move on to their weekend game.
Yeah, well, the teams that can scare you or make games closer than they should be, usually a number of things pop up. They make a lot of threes, so you can't let them go crazy from three. They out rebound you and get extra possessions, which is not something you obviously want to allow. Maybe foul too much and give them points there. So you just got to play solid and try to just take their whatever chance they have right away. I mean, just possession by possession, win the majority of them and put them in a position that they don't want to be. So 3-point defense, rebounding, taking care of the ball, the little things that allow teams to get extra possessions or gain confidence is what you want to try to prevent. What does Iowa learn? What do they take away from their blowout loss at Columbus? That was one of the worst performances of the season defensively. It was. And so I'm guessing they'll see a few clips of that and see where they struggled and nobody likes to get their butts kicked and that was one of the more convincing losses they've had all year. So hopefully they'll pay them back. And of course, Sensabaugh really played well in that game, and he is a pro prospect. How does Iowa deal with him? Make it tough. Don't give him any easy baskets. Don't foul him. Just make it difficult. Make him make tough shots to beat you, and usually those percentages will work in your favor. All right, folks, final recap here. The Hawkeyes defeating Minnesota on the road in Minneapolis. They've won Iowa has won their eighth time in the last 8 tries here, dating back to January 5th. They've won 6 of their last 7 overall against Minnesota. Of course, Kris Murray with his double-double with 28 and 14. Philip Bracha had 16 and 8 on the night, reaching 15-plus points in 10 of Iowa's last 15 contests. Tony Perkins, didn't mention him. He did have 6 assists. I thought he attacked early, Gary. Got off to a good start. Mm-hmm. You want to see consistency a little bit more from Tony because they need good guard play heading into March. But he gave him 6 assists and some hoops as well. Hawkeyes with 11 steals. That's a season high for Iowa. And Iowa, of course, dominated the offensive glass. 17 offensive rebounds. 2 offensive rebounds allowed equaled a season low for a Hawkeye opponent. They allowed just 2 against Penn State back in January as well. Fran McCaffery now has 123 regular season Big Ten games, or I should say Big Ten wins, just 3 behind Dr. Tom Davis for the most in program history. There you go. He'll get that this year. I think he will. So, Gary, I hear people in your background. So they listen, they don't show up late. No, they can't. They won't. We won't let them in. The bus leaves. I've got pie waiting for me. I've got pigs in a blanket waiting for me. I've got chili waiting for me. I've got Iowa Smokehouse beef sticks and jerky waiting for me. So I got nothing else to say. We'll see everybody back Thursday. I'll be at that game, Gary. We'll have to talk about how we're going to handle post-game coverage because I'll have a bit of a delay regardless. But we'll talk to you Thursday, hopefully recapping yet another Iowa win. That sounds like a plan to me. All right. For Coach Gary Close, I'm Corey Brad here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Appreciate you tuning in for Iowa Postgame with Coach Gary Close. We'll talk to you on Thursday. All right.